Hello everyone, Toaster here, your third most favorite kitchen appliance, and I am proud to present to you the very first installment of a Toasted Review. For my very first Toasted Review, I will be reviewing the game The Entropy Center. The Entropy Center is a new 3D sci-fi puzzle game that is built on the Unreal Engine 4, and was released on November 3rd, 2022, for the PlayStation 4 and 5, the Xbox One, the Series X and Series S, and the PC with the price tag of $24.99. The game is published by Playstack, and it is developed by Stubby Games, which, according to their official Twitter, is a solo indie developer, a Mr. Daniel Stubbington to be precise. Yes, this full-length Unreal Engine-based 3D puzzle game was developed by a single solo indie developer, which in and of itself is quite an impressive achievement. However, despite this, it is not going to be a free pass for a good review, nor a shield for constructive criticism. Now, as you witness some of the gameplay footage from the Entropy Center, your first immediate thought is that it may prompt you to draw comparisons to the popular puzzle game Portal. However, it is very important to note that the Entropy Center is its own strong independent game who needs no man, and as such, I will be reviewing it fairly, and separately, and with absolutely no wrongful comparisons to the game Portal. So, let's begin, shall we? We start by waking up in an abandoned, overgrown facility that is completely absent of human life, whilst we ourselves have no recollection as to how we got here, and we are left wandering it until we stumble across a fancy handheld device that utilizes quantum physics to manipulate the world around us as we go from room to room solving puzzles as a test subject under the potential gaze of former scientists, all whilst being accompanied by an AI companion who is there for moral support and community relief in an effort to, okay, yes, fine. It is literally impossible to not compare this game to Portal, as the game has clearly drawn tons of inspiration from it. But the real question is, does this game present its own premise, narrative, and gameplay features that are unique enough to shine as its own independent work of art, or is it just a shameful Portal clone? Let's find out, shall we? This first section will be with no real story spoilers, other than laying out the backstory that is presented to us within the first 20 minutes or so of gameplay. But be warned, there will be a spoiler section later on in the video with some story spoilers. Right off the bat, being based on the Unreal Engine 4, the game is visually beautiful and immersive. From the visuals of the overgrown and abandoned Entropy Center, combined with the occasional chances that we get to peer into space, you get drawn into the world that the game presents to you. The sounds are satisfying, with the humming of the Entropy device as you reverse cubes through time, and the crackling and crumbling of the aging facility further immerse you into the setting.
Warning, do not stand underneath falling debris.
The animations are good for the most part, aside from the walking animation in regards to the Entropy device bobbing back and forth, which is a bit awkward, but it gets the job done. The music is spot on, with an original soundtrack that further embraces the atmosphere of the urgency and the epic that the story presents. The voice acting is spot on and is very impressive, with our two main characters in this game, Aria being voiced by Chloe Taylor, and Astra, our little AI companion, being voiced by Casey Miracle. Both do a fantastic job with presenting emotions of intrigue, mystery, urgency, challenge, struggle, hopelessness, desperation, relief, and triumph that we face as we uncover the story.
I am detecting excessive amounts of cognitive function and frustration. Do you need a refreshment?
I'm good, thanks.
You're welcome.
The overall length of the game, depending on your skill level, especially in regards to how challenging you find the puzzles, can be about 12 hours give or take. It took me about 11.5 hours to finish this game from start to finish. Moving on to a spoiler-free introduction to the story, we play as Aria, and yes, we start up by waking in an abandoned and overgrown facility known as the Entropy Center, a facility that is filled with all things E.
Hello, E?
We do have some sort of amnesia or memory loss, as we have no real recollection of how we got here, nor do we know what this facility even is or what we're even supposed to do. So we're left aimlessly wandering around the facility for a short period of time until we stumble across the handheld portal device. Wait, what? Oh, excuse me, the handheld Entropy device. A device that has the power to reverse objects through time. This nifty little device also has a P, a personal entropy assistant. This one in particular is known as Astra.
My name is Astra.
And it is our trusty AI companion who accompanies us through the game, who is there for guidance.
Level 4.
Note, this is not level 4. This is a wall.
Moral support. And even cat facts.
Did you know cats regulate their body temperature by purring?
But at the same time is no stranger to petty insults.
Would you also like me to make an appointment with a doctor about your funny shaped head?
What?
Shortly after acquiring the Entropy device, we start encountering puzzles. The puzzles in this game are largely centered around manipulating a healthy variety of entropy cubes to activate buttons, tackle environmental challenges, and to even reach new areas by traversing gaps or launching us to greater heights. This is accomplished by reversing those cubes through the entropy device's ability to manipulate time, all with the end goal generally being reaching the exit of the puzzle room. This is an interesting approach, as when you start your first puzzle, you immediately have to start thinking of how to solve puzzles, but in the reverse order. For example, you must first plan out your solution, with your start point being unlocking the exit door first, and from there figure out the proper sequence of events to solve the puzzle room in the reverse order until you reach the start point, which is now your endpoint. And from there, utilize the entropy device's time mechanics to reverse the cubes and the environmental elements in order to solve the puzzle in the proper sequence of events to open or reach the exit door. A bit of a challenge to process at first, isn't it? As we get further into the game, we also start getting introduced to new puzzle mechanics that require us to find new ways to manipulate our surroundings to solve harder and more complex puzzles, such as the introduction of conveyors, fans, and even rivers. The very first and most challenging aspect of the puzzles in this game is on how to figure out the process of solving puzzles in the reverse order. But after you figure out how to do this, then the early game puzzles start to get easy. The puzzles do get harder by the mid-game, and despite there definitely being a few head-scratchers that I personally got stuck on, the puzzle difficulty was never overly difficult and never flat-out impossible to solve. As we progress, the game tends to swap out old puzzle elements for newer ones, but it does tend to build off of earlier concepts that get introduced along the way, and the game never tends to throw any curveballs your way. At least for the most part. There was one or two solutions that were not immediately apparent right away, at least for me, which had me struggling just a bit. The longest time that it took me to solve a single puzzle was just over 23 minutes. 23 minutes! Which is not too terrible for a single difficult puzzle. The game even finds new and interesting ways to implement new mechanics to keep the gameplay refreshing. Almost every new area that you enter will introduce a new mechanic to be utilized in puzzles, whether that be environmental aspects like a river or fan, or interactable elements like the introduction of a new type of entropy cube. The Entropy Center is well polished, and despite a few minor visual glitches that I found within the game's level design, the game is more or less glitch-free. The only notable flaw that I encountered within the game that was a bit frustrating at times was when certain puzzle mechanics wouldn't behave to your liking. Oh my god! Especially in regards to conveyors, where the entropy cubes will get shot off of them or get stuck tumbling on them, which would mess up your current solution. Not a big deal at all, and never caused any game-breaking problems, it just caused a slight inconvenience where I would have to start my solution all over again. But one mechanic of the game that I found to be a bit odd was the fact that the entropy device can shoot through objects and walls. It cannot initially shoot through objects or walls, but if you start to reverse a cube and it then passes through a wall whilst you are controlling it, then it will continue to reverse the cube through the wall, shooting your entropy device through said wall. I went into this game thinking that I could not shoot through walls, because that would make sense, and it wasn't about until mid-game where I discovered that you could. This threw me off at first, as I wasn't expecting it. It just didn't make sense to me, especially since the game offers you chain link fences, which grant you the ability and even incite you to shoot through them, further reinforcing the fact that you shouldn't be able to shoot through solid objects. Again, I figured that you would just be forced to stop shooting the device the moment that you came across a solid object, which would have added another obstacle to take into consideration when puzzle solving. But there was one solution somewhere around the mid-game that proves you wrong in this sense. Not only does it show you that you can continuously fire your entropy device through said object, but this becomes a necessity further on in the game, sometimes even while being totally blind to the movements of the cube that you're manipulating, turning your solution into guesswork. It's just another minor complaint that I have about an odd mechanic that just didn't sit right with me. The overall pacing of the puzzle was not as fast as Portal, but it was actually more in line with that of the Talos principle. Whereas in Portal, you could very quickly experiment with portals and other elements by spamming around portals at the mere press of a button to constantly and effortlessly tackle the puzzles presented to you. It kept the pacing rather quick, and in fact, there were many parts of the game that require you to think on your toes, demanding you to quickly place down portals in order to avoid hazards or to reach new areas. This type of pacing made the overall game exciting, and it always kept the game moving along. Even at moments where you were stuck attempting to solve a puzzle, the ease of being able to experiment with your surroundings allowed for much more exciting gameplay. Whereas in the case of the Entropy Center, it fell more in line with the pacing of the Talos principle. It often involves you taking a step back, slowly experimenting with the surrounding elements in order to properly plan things out. But in addition, the slow movements of the entropy device's time reversal mechanics, and with the addition of having to constantly lug around boxes to different areas, making small changes to the placement and setup in order to completely alter the way you approach the puzzle, makes for overall slower pacing, which is perfectly fine. Overall, the puzzles are interesting enough to keep you engaged and entertained, and they are rewarding as well, giving you a sense of accomplishment upon solving them, and always presenting you with a nice little TV screen just past the exit of every room, showing how pathetically stupid you are in regards to how slowly you solve the puzzle.
Congratulations on finishing the puzzle. You completed it in a below-average speed.
But the only time that this pacing drags the game down is when it gets incorporated into the storyline. If there's one flaw about this game that I could point my finger at, it's the pacing of the game. Yes, I just said that the pacing of the puzzles is slow, and I said it was fine. And it is. But the problem with the game's pacing presents itself when we incorporate the story into it. As we go further into the game, the story unfolds that requires a rather immediate sense of urgency, which I will go further in depth into on the spoiler section. This is a true shame, as some of the finer aspects and flaws of this game cannot be discussed without spoiling at least some of the story. But for now, what I will say is that it's this conflict of slow pacing of the puzzles, but the demanding urgency of the storyline within the game that drags it down just a bit. A flaw that definitely raises an eyebrow, but despite this, it doesn't damage the overall game. Rather, instead, this one issue prevents the game from truly shining brighter than it already does. Moving on to the spoiler section, let's go a bit more in-depth into the story. The Entropy Center is a facility that was built on the moon shortly after the discovery of entropy energy. Entropy energy is energy which can be harnessed and used to reverse time on both small and massive scales. The Entropy Center is outfitted with a massive entropy device which is used to rewind all of Earth, including the very humans on it, in order to save it from cataclysmic events, which include environmental disasters.
In the year 2001, the Entropy Center successfully reduced global temperatures worldwide.
Nuclear wars, and any and all extinction-level events, such as asteroid strikes.
The great 2012 world-ending asteroid was rewound by the Entropy Center.
The Entropy Center will rewind a cataclysmic event on Earth, reversing it up to a period of 5 years per blast of the larger entropy device, which will also reverse all humans on it, thus saving the planet and everyone on it. The Entropy Center will then send the data of the cataclysmic event back to the governments on Earth, who will then use this data to prevent the upcoming disaster in order to prolong humanity. When we start the game, we open up to Aria being in a dreamlike sequence where we witness the Earth blowing up. Already not off to a great start. As we move forward into the game, we get hints and warnings that a cataclysmic event is about to hit Earth.
Cataclysmic event on Earth is in progress.
Again, totally not good. Eventually, within the first hour or so of the game, we witness such an event happen. An asteroid strikes the Earth, destroying it. We immediately spring into action, and we are told by our faithful AI companion Astra to activate the entropy device to rewind Earth and save all of humanity. However, that doesn't work. Of course it wouldn't. Did you really think it would be that easy? Apparently, there is not enough entropy energy currently stored on the Entropy Center to be able to rewind Earth. Not only that, but the blast from the asteroid impact of Earth has damaged the Entropy Center's reactor.
We head as fast as we can to the power reactor. We can't enable the entropy device until that is repaired.
So now we have to go and fix that too. Fantastic. So we are thrust into a great and heroic adventure, where we are tasked with repairing the Entropy Center, discovering the mystery behind the absence of our fellow humans on the center.
Fun Entropy Center fact. People used to say that the Entropy Center was haunted by ghosts.
And with creating entropy energy along the way, so that we can save Earth and all of humanity. But first, entropy energy. How exactly do we generate it? And furthermore, how are we going to get our way to the reactor? Well, one does not simply walk into the reactor. There's no direct route to it. The shortest route to the reactor is by going from puzzle room to puzzle room, solving puzzles along the way as we generate our entropy energy.
The whole center is made up of puzzle areas. Trust me, this is the fastest route.
How convenient. The process of solving puzzles with no prior knowledge on how to solve them, nor without the solution being told to us, but rather the ability for an individual to learn how to solve a puzzle through their own critical thinking and problem-solving process will result in the creation of entropy energy. Somehow.
The process of solving an unsolved puzzle, particularly in the case of using entropy time manipulation, encodes and reveals high entropy information, which can be used to generate entropy energy.
And it is this entropy energy which is used to charge the larger entropy device on the facility, which we can then use to rewind and save Earth. So, in summary, we make our way to the reactor by going from puzzle room to puzzle room, solving puzzles along the way and generating entropy energy as well.
Okay, so observe puzzle, solve puzzle, brain hurts, generate energy, then rewind Earth?
Now, in regards to pacing, this is where the criticism that I mentioned earlier comes into play. The fact that the Earth is destroyed and may be lost forever unless we can spring into action quickly enough, the fact that the reactor is about to blow up permanently and damage the Entropy Center. Oh, reactor! Oh, it's not good! The constant threat that the explosions from Earth is going to destroy the Entropy Center and you along with it places upon you a great sense of urgency, the need to get to your destination as quickly as possible as Earth's sole savior, or else you risk losing everything.
Recommendation? Speed.
Oh, wait, hold on there, just a second, Area. Stop what you're doing. Earth can wait. Why don't you take 10, 15, heck, why not 30 minutes out of your itinerary and solve this exciting puzzle first? That's right, lug this box from this side of the room here and place it all the way over there, and then gently and gingerly rewind it through time. Watch as it elegantly floats, ignore the explosion, floats through the air, such as that of a beautiful manta ray. Witness as it glides through the beautiful, pristine, clear aqua ocean of the acrylic aquarium prison that it is forced to live in. See what I'm getting at? The slow pacing of the puzzle definitely conflicts with the needs of the story. Now, the fact that there is a story-linked necessity to solve puzzles in order to generate the entropy energy needed to save Earth does remedy it in some way and definitely gives you a reason to take the time to solve the puzzles, but despite that, it just doesn't sit right with me. It's a recurring theme of mine, and I will touch a bit more on this in just a moment. Another thing that was quite a questionable addition was the inclusion of enemies into the game. Yes, enemies. Now, you may say that Portal has enemies, so why is this questionable in the Entropy Center? Because it is done very differently. At about the mid-game point, we encounter angry, sentient AI robots, a thing that the game has subtly been hinting about through terminal entries and cameo appearances. There are 3 notable recurring sections in this game that involve the robot enemies. We have the chase sequences, the combat sections, and the puzzle-solving sections. And on top of that, we can occasionally and randomly encounter them just scattered throughout the game. The robot enemies will seek to end you in one of 2 ways. The common white ones will try shooting you with a ball of concentrated energy, and the red ones have an AoE stun weapon, and if you get too close, then they will end you. Now, for the white ones shooting the ball of concentrated energy at you, you can actually capture it with the entropy device and reverse it back into them to blow it up. Along the way, you may even find explosive cubes to toss at these robots to destroy them. And as for the white robots, you can even pick them up and launch them into the air to destroy them as well.
Yeet.
Oh, God. What did you just say?
But just don't try that with the red ones. Keep it moving, keep walking, keep going. Oh. Now, the chase sequences involve us scurrying away from the robot enemies in a scripted event. These are perfectly fine and a welcome addition, as this is one of the ways that cleverly spices up the game's pacing in between the puzzle-solving sections. I also want to mention that there are also other similar scripted events as well that require us to think on our toes that do not involve robot enemies, but rather involve environmental hazards, and again are also a nice way that the game spices up its pacing. Now, despite these being scripted events, I had no problem with these, except for one section where the destination wasn't clearly laid out. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Haha. The combat sections are sections where we'll encounter a bunch of robots that we are required to destroy in order to advance and are quite dry. The same goes for the puzzle-solving section, in which we are required to satisfy a bunch of simple puzzle elements in order to unlock a door in a large and open room, all whilst robot enemies constantly respawn and attack us. Again, it is a quite dry sequence simply because the robot enemies don't do anything. They're just there. They have an attack where you can survive 1 or 2 hits, no problem, but their attacks are also very easy to avoid and very easy to counter. The robot enemies themselves are quite slow and can easily be kited, and they have a large detection range that are slow to respond, so you can easily sneak by them no problem. They are a very simple enemy. They are never really any threat to you and are nothing more than a small nuisance. It is not a very strong addition to the game, and the sections that involve them aren't bad, but they don't bring anything to the table. The enemies are just a minor inconvenience in the overall setting of the game. I can only suspect that robots were included to spice up the pacing of the game and to include new elements for us to avoid and manage, but their implementation was rather disappointing. And bringing Portal back into the mix once again, it would have been better to have seen these enemies implemented into a way similar to that of Portal, where the enemy robots were included as a new puzzle element to manage or a new puzzle hazard to avoid, resulting in ways in which you would have to utilize cubes to block their fire, find creative ways to sneak up behind them to disable them, or utilize other elements to destroy them. Implementing them as a new element or hazard into the puzzles would have been far more interesting than what was included with them in the game. I just want to discuss the missed potential of some mechanics in the game, and yes, it is in regards to the game's pacing. There are sequences scattered throughout the game where we utilize puzzle mechanics such as conveyors and fans in a way to traverse areas of the game. This is often simply implemented, laid back, and can be done without any sense of urgency. However, this could have had massive potential and could have been utilized in a way to make fast-paced, quick decisions to get us to think on our toes and to spice up the game a little. and to help satisfy the sense of urgency that the story so greatly wishes to instill in us. And this nitpicky thing especially shines during an endgame sequence where we have to utilize fans to fling us from one tiny island to the next. For a brief moment, I thought that this element was going to go somewhere, but it didn't. We just fling ourselves from one island, take a break, maybe toss a robot off a cliff, find another fan, and fling us over to the next island. It's really nothing special, but how awesome would it have been if we had to think on our toes? How epic could that sequence have been implemented into the story to fill that sense of urgency, as we, the player, would be responsible for launching ourselves from fan to fan, activating them at the precise moment to avoid falling to our doom, and flinging ourselves in epic fashion to get to our destination in the nick of time to save Earth. Instead, for our last hurrah, we got something not nearly as exciting. I won't spoil it, but it involves the robots. Now, could it be possible that the developer just didn't want to do this, or tried this and found that it did not fit with the game's flow? Sure, anything's possible, so I will give him the benefit of the doubt, but I feel as if it was a missed opportunity to spice up the gameplay, and to link the slow puzzle-solving pacing to the urgency of the story. And finally, I want to discuss the endgame puzzles. They were a bit disappointing as well. As we progress through the game, we are constantly getting introduced to new puzzle mechanics. However, not only are we getting introduced to new puzzle mechanics, but sadly some of the older ones seem to disappear entirely, which is not entirely unusual for a puzzle game, but the reintroduction of previous elements definitely could have helped this game with its final puzzle section, and there is no more perfect example of this than the very last puzzle in the game. As I approached the final puzzle section consisting of the last puzzles in the game before the grand finale, I was expecting the most challenging, the most intuitive, and the most creative puzzles that the game could offer, including a variety of the past puzzle elements from previous rooms, such as the conveyors, the fans, the rivers, the toll cube, the laser cube, the moving platforms, springboards, everything thrown at you all together and combined into one epic set of puzzles to finish off the game on a grand note. But what did we get? What did the epic finale consist of? Hey bro, use this one single puzzle element to traverse this gap. Yeah, just manipulate a couple of cubes through this transformer, and that's it. No conveyors, no fans, no rivers, no moving platforms, no springboards, nothing. Not to say that the puzzle wasn't challenging, it was in fact a bit challenging, but overall I was disappointed in the variety of the endgame puzzle. It really missed out on tons of potential, as the creativity of the endgame puzzles definitely seems to have fallen off, whereas the early and mid-game puzzles offered more intriguing setups and solutions than its endgame counterparts. Now that we've made our way through the spoiler section, it's now time for the verdict. For my toasted reviews, I have decided to keep things simple, and have devised 3 possible rankings. At the bottom of my ranking system, we have burnt. To put it quite simply, is bad. Bad game, toaster does not recommend. Then we have the middle of the road ranking, half-baked. That means that the game's okay, but it's not okay, but that's okay.
I'm not okay, you're not okay, but that's okay.
It's a don't worry, you're not missing out on anything, but maybe wait until it's on sale type of deal. And then finally, we have Toasted, the new Fable rating that is now held to the highest standards of the video game industry, one that all developers strive to achieve. A new Hollow title that even surpasses that of the legendary Video Game Awards. Quite simply, is good. Toaster recommends. And the verdict is... Toasted. The Entropy Center is a well-polished and fantastic puzzle game that has beautiful graphics, outstanding voice acting, and its unique time reversal approach as its base gameplay mechanics provides a clever method to puzzle solving that is not only challenging, but that is also very rewarding. This all gets wrapped up in a nice little bow with its epic story arc that leaves you with an emotional, thought-provoking, and satisfying ending. All this is even more impressive by the fact that this game is entirely made by a single solo indie developer, and one that echoes back to the achievements of the original Portal team, in which a small team of indie developers bundled their cute little project in with the Orange Box to critical success. The few shortcomings that it faces doesn't damage the product that the game brings to the table, but rather acts as a mere roadblock, with a few minor nitpicky flaws that hold the game back just a bit. Despite all these things that I was nitpicking about, especially in the spoiler section, the Entropy Center is a fantastic Portal-inspired puzzle game that separates itself far enough from Portal to be its own unique and outstanding game. Personally, I love to see future content for this game, whether that be additional puzzles added to the game, the release of future expansion packs or DLC, or a possible sequel, or at the very least, the opportunity to release developer tools to the Steam Workshop so that the community can create their own puzzles to share amongst the fanbase. Regardless of what the future holds for this IP, Stubby Games has proven himself to be an excellent developer, and I can only look forward to him taking the opportunity to expand his company, and I can't wait to see what he has brewing on the horizon. Before finishing up this review, I just want to take the opportunity to address some other common and valid complaints that I stumbled across while peering at the review section of the game's Steam store page. There were quite a few complaints regarding people's expectations of the game, as some were hoping for a game that is Portal, but found out that it is not Portal. Silly, I know, but understandable, as the approach that the developer took towards this game, with it having such strong similarities to that of Portal, I can absolutely see some individuals' perceptions and expectations being a bit misconstrued. If you want a game that is Portal, then be warned that this game is not Portal. Another common complaint is one that I brought up many times before, and it is in regards to the game's pacing, and in addition also some wonky physics in regards to the rewind mechanic and the entropy cubes. People bring up the fact that the pacing of the puzzles is slow to begin with, and again it is more in line with that of the Talos principle. But some also point out that the physics doesn't always cooperate with you, and for example, if you rewind a cube too far, then this could result in a person having to reset their entire solution, which has some people frustrated. Take note, Dev, that a fast-forward mechanic with a limited amount of fast-forward time for balancing gameplay purposes could have resolved this issue, allowing players to correct their cube placement without having to completely restart their solutions if they overshoot their rewind. Now, in regards to the wonky physics, I did experience it a few times, but it never really affected me or my overall experience of the game. It was not right. It was far from being right. These Steam reviews are things that I want to bring up so that I could give my viewers a broader perception of some of the overall complaints that I did not personally experience. Since I also brought up the Steam reviews, I will also note that the current Steam rating is very positive. Now, this review video is based on my own personal experiences and opinions, but I do implore you to do your own research into the game and experience other reviews from other channels and individuals to get a greater idea on the feel of the game before making a decision to purchase it. Simply put, your mileage may vary. If puzzling is your thing and you enjoy high-quality puzzle games that echo to that of Portal or the Talos principle, then I do recommend that you check this game out. Again, it is available on the PC, PlayStation, and Xbox for just under $25. If puzzling is not your thing, but you enjoy excellent games with fantastic stories, or you enjoy watching other people suffer as they struggle to solve challenging puzzles, or a clueless person rambling on about crazy theories that immediately get disproven mere minutes after the words get uttered out of their mouth, then you could check out my full Let's Play that I did on this game on my channel. I'll leave a link to that at the cards at the end of the video and in the description below. If you did buy this game and you're a dirty little cheater and you need the solutions to the puzzles, then you can also check out my Let's Play video too. Quick note, not all of my puzzles may have had ethical solutions to them. No way! What? Get out of here! How's that even possible? If you enjoyed this very first installment of Toaster's Toasted Review, then be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I've been Toaster. Peace out.